What you'll find with tenants is when they need you, if they've got no heating, no hot water, or they've got water pissing through the ceiling, they will be in to accommodate you 24 hours a day, Monday to Friday. As soon as they don't need you in an emergency, like you've got to get back in to just finish something so you can get paid, or you've got to do a gas certificate, something that doesn't affect their heating or hot water or their life in general, they can't be in unless it's a weekend or after 5 at night. It pisses me off. What's up guys, happy Sunday. Thanks for tuning in to my latest video, The Life of a Jobbing Plumber, sponsored by Power Tool Mate and Velocity Pro Gear. I've not asked for a while, but if you are watching this and you don't subscribe, please hit the subscribe button because I want to get to 100k subscribers before I'm dead, because you get a really cool YouTube plaque. So this week's video, a lot of boiler breakdowns. Obviously it's silly season, but I've tried to mix it up. Got a rad TRV swap where I bunged the tank, and yeah, just business as usual really. Really busy because of the time of year. If you saw my story, I drove past a house that was the first job I ever did where I was left on my own after I qualified as an apprentice, and the customer didn't pay, and I ended up going back to that job months later and ripping it all out again. Now, I put that on my Instagram as well, and a lot of people were asking me questions about it, saying I didn't think you could do that. So if you're interested, I might do a YouTube video basically telling the story of that. So let me know in the comments, and I hope you enjoy this week's video. This one was an emergency call out to a property with no central heating. So basic checks: turn the heating on, check that the room stat was up and call in. Just hear the click there. And then up to the airing cupboard. So the 3-port valve is making, you can hear it, but it's making a clicking and a whirring noise, but it's not actually opening, it's stuck in the closed position. So when I took it off, you can hear it. And then I forced it and unlocked it, and you can hear now that the pump's come on and the boiler's fired up. So it's pretty obvious it's a valve motor fault. It's stuck. It looks like a cheap quality one, but it also looks very new, and in the cupboard is the old valve that someone's taken off. So my thought on this was maybe get the original installer out to have a look at the new one they've fitted and possibly take it back and get it replaced under warranty. As I'm here just as an emergency call out, all I'm going to do tonight is lock this valve in manual position, so just hook it in there. That will give them heating and hot water until they can get the installer back. And then all I'll do is I'll send the letting agency a little email explaining that I've got it working temporarily, get the original installer out to have a proper look at it. It's only 5:15, it's pitch black. So that job I've just been in, stuck 3-port, looked like it was brand new or quite new. So I've recommended that they get whoever installed that to go back and possibly replace it under warranty, but I will put a quote in for me to swap that 3-port for a new one, because I think it's just going to keep getting stuck like that. So funny thing though, the tenant asked me if I was going to send a bill for my call out tonight. Bearing in mind they only rang me at 4 o'clock and it's 5:15 now. So yeah, he was asking me if I send a bill. I said, well, if they ask me to put the new 3-port in and I send them an invoice for the whole job, then no. But if they don't and they get someone else to do it, I'll send them a call-out charge for tonight. And he was asking me that because he wanted me to go around, bleed and balance all his radiators. So I had to bullshit him and just say, look, whoever comes and does this valve will have to drain the system down, so it'll need balancing and bleeding then anyway. I ain't got time to bloody mess around with your radiators. I'm here to help you get your heating on and fuck off to my next job. Well, this is looking promising. This is the real life of a jobbing plumber. Attend as arranged, and nobody's in. One of the good things about it getting dark early is this job. The gas certificate's due. and the tenants haven't responded to emails, phone calls, text messages, nothing. I've rang them and text both the numbers twice today, no answer. So I drove by and the lights are on, so let's see if they're in. Well, lights are on, but they're not answering the door. Typical. So in the roof is header tank for the heating. A small vent pipe. So I've got a drip stopper. I'm going to plug that. So that's stopping any air going in. And then we're going to take the lid off. You can work out. This is pretty well packaged. I was just tucked in here, so folded that over. And then the next one is going to plug the outlet, which is there. So now when I take one of my radiator valves off, new water can get in, and it can't pull any air in, so we should create an airlock. So I've got to do a voiceover on this job because the customer was in the room with me when I was working, so I didn't feel comfortable talking. So changing these rad valves, got my dicky dyer dust sheet with the cutout for the pipe, and then the plumb tub, which I've said numerous times, I wish I'd invented this, clips around the pipe, and then that should seal around there, so any water is going to go into our plumb tub. Now, because we have bunged the tank and created an airlock, when I take this rad valve off live, basically the system is still live, it's still full of water, we should get a little bit come out and then it should stop, it should airlock. So I filmed the whole thing, it took a little while, but basically when you first take it off, you will get some water out. It ended up filling about a third of this plumb tub before it stopped. You'll actually see when I take the TRV off completely, after I've let it drain a little bit, the level of the water that stays in the upstand, showing you that the system is still live, but it's airlocked in. So it's just a really handy way of doing work on a system without actually draining the whole thing down. I've worked on this system before and I had to drain down to do a downstairs radiator, and it took me ages to remove an airlock to get the boiler going, probably about 3 hours. So I really didn't want to drain it down. Other things, if you don't want to have to mess about with inhibitor and stuff, it's just quicker as well. So obviously changing TRVs is a very boring job. So I've sped this up, but basically I did all 5 before I'd finished my cup of tea. Then went back up in the loft, put the water back on, and job done. And you know how long it takes you when you drain down and fill back up. So yeah, not much to say. The tool I'm using is the Nipex pliers wrench, flat jaw, so that's like a spanner but also adjustable. And the paste I use is the Leico Slick Tight. It's handy because it comes in a brush, so you can keep it in your kit bag. And yeah, that's them all done before I finish my tea. Right, so now the valve's done. Pop this one out first. And then this one. Job done. So I was using these the other day, and I love Christmas. It's getting near Christmas and I'm thinking about Christmas, and I was thinking about these making an awesome Christmas present. So if you're one of those guys or girls that's really a nightmare to buy for, because if you want something, you bought it yourself because you've got adult money, this might be the thing. So it's a pair of Nipex, but it doesn't have to be a pair of Nipex. It can be any tool. You can get your name engraved on the tool. So I've got B Plumber there on the handle. And I thought if your missus is watching this or your other half's watching this and they're struggling for ideas, maybe they could get you something cool like that. So the company that does it is the same company that makes those pipe drill bit cleaners that I did in like a video a couple of weeks ago. LHP Supplies, it's Lavender Plumbing Supplies, I think it's called. The only downside is they've not got a website, so you'd have to ring them up or go on their Instagram page and drop them a message. But yeah, Christmas, I think that's a good shout. So this is another standard bread and butter call out. Basically, the boiler's been losing pressure. The Tenant's been topping it up, losing pressure, topping it up. But you can see it's over-pressurised at the minute, and that's because the expansion vessel's failed. And what will happen is when the heating comes on, it will get so high, it will get to 3 bar, and then it will go out the PRV. That's when they lose pressure, then they put water back in, and rinse and repeat that cycle. So I've isolated the flow and return. I've put my hose on the drain off inside the boiler, and I'm draining the pressure off the system. So we've separated the boiler from the system, and we've drained the water content in the boiler. So now I can check what's going on with this expansion vessel. Now I've done this a million times. I've showed you this job before, but what I thought I'd show you today is I've got a new toy. So there's my bent adapter that I normally use on these boilers, but I'm trying out this new toy, which is a quick release one that someone gave me off Instagram. So the idea is you just get it on top, squeeze it, push it on, and then when you let go, it grabs it. And it actually worked pretty well, which surprised me. And then pump it up. Yeah, it'd be a good idea to put a battery in that before you try and use it, Pete. So we've drained the boiler. We've isolated it from the system. Oh, this is in PSI because I was using this to inflate a van tyre. So you can do PSI or bar on this. So now, when I put pressure on, the pump on, it's going to force any water out that's still in that expansion vessel. So the bottom figure won't rise until it's got rid of all the water. So you can see that it's pumping it out now. Once that gets all the water out, you'll see the bottom number start to rise. So you can see there, now the hose has stopped running. We're actually putting air into that expansion vessel. So I'm going to take that up to 1 bar. And what I always do on these, leave it 5 minutes, 10 minutes while you're having your cup of tea, just to make sure that that number at the bottom doesn't start to drop. If it does, then you've got an issue with your expansion vessel, probably perforated, and it will need swapping. But if it stays on the same figure, you're good to go. So that's been on 10 minutes now. Finish my tea, and then we'll just whip this off, which you just squeeze it and pull it off. It's as easy as that. So I think pretty decent, but saying that, I've only just got it, so I can't tell you how long it's going to last. Here's a listing on Amazon. Air tyre chuck is what I typed in. This seems to be the cheapest one. You get 2 for $6.99, and you also get that angled quick release adapter. But the best option is probably $9.99 because you get 8. So if you've got a few engineers working for you, chuck them 1 each. Yeah, see what you think. Perks of working for yourself. You've got a busy day today. You've got 9 jobs. Like I showed you last week. There I'm on the map in the cafe. Pink jobs are already done. These greeny blue ones, they're my next 2 jobs. This one here is orange because it was supposed to be key access, but they can't find the key, so. Right, tell me the story of what happened.
So, yesterday evening the heating was on.
Yeah.
And we were just having dinner. And I went over there and there was kind of like a milky coloured water.
Yeah.
I thought, oh, I've spilled something.
Yeah.
But then it was dripping from the bottom of the boiler.
Yeah.
Into that, well, I put a bowl under there.
Yeah.
And that's all of the water that came out of
Okay.
it. About half an hour later, it tripped the electrics, even though I turned the plugs and stuff off.
Yeah.
And then I think, well, Joe, my partner, turned the boiler off at the switch just because he didn't want it to trip things again.
Yeah, and then you put the power back on, the power's all on now.
Power's, all fine, the electrics are fine, but we haven't turned the boiler back on because we didn't
Okie dokie.
know what to do with it really. So,
Right, I'll have a look.
cool.
Okay, so this is one of the most common boiler breakdowns. Just going to give you a little bit of info as much as I can. So this is the sump plate, and it actually says on it to not take it off. And I think the first time I ever worked on one of these, when I was training with Kev, even though it says it on it, he took it off. And if you take it off, this is what will happen. So if you've got block condense trap or block condense pipe, the condense will back up basically and fill that heat exchanger. If you then take that plate off, all of that condense that's backed up inside will just come rushing out the front, and it will go on the gas valve and on the PCB. So it's important that you read those instructions and you don't take it off. So the problem on this is the condense traps on these are the worst. They are so crap. They're so small, they get blocked easily. But also, weirdly on this one, that's the bowl that the customer put under there. It's like a white, milky substance. For some reason, these ideals, I don't know if it's the sites they were fitted on or what, they always go in with the kitchen sink, and that is why they block up, I think. So, took this trap off, expecting a load of water to come rushing out, but nothing came out, and that's because you'll see when I take this off, it's absolutely rock solid. It's chock-a-block there. It's also rock solid up into the boiler. You see how that trap's filled? There's no way anything's getting through there, and it's so dry. It's obviously been like it a while. No, it's better with a flash on. So you should be able to, obviously, that should be clear so water can get through it and it's solid. And then if we look up into the boiler, it's solid there as well. I didn't notice this at the time, but that's silicone in there. So the last guy to work on it has put some silicone on it, and that's half the reason why it's blocked so badly. So using a screwdriver, try to dig it out to clear that, and then obviously once I did that, the condensate that was trapped in the heat exchanger has then got a chance to come out, and by judging what was in the bowl, you can imagine what it's going to be like inside the bowl, and it was like a thick grey slop. It took me absolutely ages to get it out. So that's it, the thick grey dripping into my bowl, which means I'm able now to take the sump cover off without it flooding anything, and then you'll see inside here just how thick and blocked it was. I'm just going to get in a second, I'll get my screwdriver and I'll just mix it up a bit just to show you how thick it is. That's me jamming the screwdriver back up. So I've made my hole, but it's still not clearing because it's just so thick. You can see there, look. So basically let that drip out, and then I flushed it through with some fresh water to clean it all out. And yeah, this is what we got. So just grey, and then the thick bits mainly were in the trap. You see how badly blocked that is? I had to dig it out because I didn't have one on the van, and this was on I think this was a Thursday night I did this job. See how thick it is and how hard it is. My plan was to clean it out and put it all back together to get the heating back on. Obviously, still got to look at the power. So that's the trap cleared out. You can see it's flowing nicely now. And there's a bit of silicone left on there. So as far as I could work out, you do get a washer with this. And whether that, I don't know where the washer is, but it's not on there, and it's got a silicone, someone's made up their own silicone washer to put it back together. Now I've not got one of these on the van, so I'm going to clean this out and use an O-ring, and hopefully this will seal enough for me to get the heat and hot water back on, because they've got a baby. So that's the plan. Obviously, so the condense runs for these boilers, like I said before, very often they go in with this kitchen sink, and the stuff like what you would call it, the stuff that gets stuck in your waste pipes from using a kitchen sink, like fatty deposits, just basically slime from your washing up liquid, stuff like that, blocks them. So if this is blocked, the boiler can't drain away, and that's why it backs up. So you see when I take this off, all that grey water that's in the boiler has come down here to try and get out of the waste pipe, and it's basically nowhere to go, and it's backed up. And you'll find this all the time. So if you're new to the game and you get an ideal with a block condense trap, just follow it to where it joins in under the kitchen sink, and do yourself a favour and clear that first. So once I drain that all out, you can see there all that crap that's blocking it. And this one was really bad because once I cleaned that out, it got worse. That was actually solid, so I had to break through that with a screwdriver. There was no way that this boiler was going to get to a drain. You can see how thick it was, so that needs a proper clean out. It tripped the power, so I've got to check everything's okay with the power. popped the fuse out. The 3 amp fuse is okay, but when I put that back in and turned the power on, we didn't get any power to the programmer or the boiler. So then I had to have a look behind that switch to see what was going on. Had got 240 going in, just not 240 coming out. But saying that, once I wiggled it about a bit and turned it on, I did get power. So I think it was just a loose connection. So I sorted that out, put all that back together and managed to get the power on. So with all that done, power back on, basically to give the tenants heating and hot water overnight, and then I'll pick up the parts to come back and we'll be replacing the trap with the new washer, and we'll be replacing the sump cover as well. Use Plumb Centre because I'm on the stop at City Plumbing and I have been for over a year now, and I don't think we're ever going to sort it out. So when I got back here, the boiler was still working and it hadn't been dripping or leaking. And I'll talk to you about this at the end of the video, but basically the tenants were a bit slow in letting me back in basically to fit those parts. So the sump plate's got a washer behind it and it's gone a bit crispy. It's probably not sealing right. There was a little bit of water or condense inside that combustion chamber. So I'm swapping that whole thing because it just looks knackered. So there's the new one, nice new flat washer that will screw on. And then I'm also swapping the trap. And it's got, you get 2 washers included. Depending on the serial number of the boiler and the model of the boiler, it tells you which one you need to use. So that job I was given by the letting agency, and I was told they've got no heating and no hot water and they've got a young baby in the house. Can I go around? I said I'm fully booked, but because I like to help out and I do like boiler breakdowns, I said, as it was local, let me see how I get on with my day and I'll go around as and when I get a chance. So they told me that the tenant could be in all day just to turn up whenever I could, which I did. I turned up, I got their heating and hot water back on via a temporary repair, and I told them I need to come back with spares. Now bearing in mind, when they had no heating or no hot water, they could be in all day waiting for me. As soon as I got that working and they didn't need me as an emergency, could I get back into that house to finish the job so I could send my bill? No. They couldn't be available till after 5. I couldn't even get hold of them for 3 days. And then it was like after 4:30 when they actually let me go back. What you'll find with tenants is when they need you, if they've got no heating, no hot water, or they've got water pissing through the ceiling, they will be in to accommodate you 24 hours a day, Monday to Friday. As soon as they don't need you in an emergency, like you've got to get back in to just finish something so you can get paid, or you've got to do a gas certificate, something that doesn't affect their heating or hot water or their life in general, they can't be in unless it's a weekend or after 5 at night. It pisses me off. You try and do your best to help people and they just, I don't know, they just don't appreciate it. And then when you need them to do you a favour, I just needed to get back to fit the spares so I can tick that off my list, send the bill and get paid. They make it awkward for you, even though you've helped them out. Life of a plumber.
Good evening everyone, I'm James. Some of you may have seen me on Instagram as James the Plumber. Pete's asked us to do one of these videos. I promised him I would do one for the I fucked up. So here you go. I was working on a few 4 or 5 new build properties, and this particular day, I remember it very well, I was not having a good day. It did not go anything like the plan, and the best of it was yet to come. I went across to one of the play plots, and there was a shower screen to fit, just a single panel, because the shower was set in a big recess, and the shower was on this side, on the left, and basically all I had to do was fix the profile to the wall, fit the glass panel, seal it in. No, nothing difficult about that, surely. Yeah, well, me having my bad day, went and drilled the holes over this side, like a complete bloody idiot. Not only did I drill one hole over there, I drilled the other bloody two as well, and I wouldn't care. They were like the tiles from hell. They went through about 6 tile bits doing it, and then stood back and went, oh, fuck. Well, of course, I had to go and have a word with the site manager and make my apologies. Surprisingly, he took it fairly well, because normally he's the sort of type who would blow his top. But he was all right that day. I think he'd worked out that I really wasn't in the mood for a bollocking. So, yeah, anyway, it all got sorted in the end, but as you can imagine, I have never made that mistake again. Have a good one, everyone.